Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of the Slim Podcast. It is I, Slim Cognito. Just want to let you know that we are on episode 7 of the House of the Dragon. And man, let's get into it. So, first things first, of course we pick up where we left off from last week where they're at the funeral for one of the daughters, the late wife to Daemon Targaryen, who was one of the Valyrians, and now that she's being put to rest, of course the eulogy was being spoken in a certain tongue, and the person giving the speech was talking about how their blood will remain thick and can never be thinned, and how there is salt that runs in the Valyrian blood. And while he was saying this, Daemon had a good decent chuckle. I'm not gonna lie, like he just thought it was real hilarious. So basically, I think I think the eulogist was like throwing shade toward Daemon and saying that we don't want y'all mixing with us and whatnot, and Daemon just went ahead and had a laugh with it. So I guess that's understandable. But here we are, everyone's gathered, like everybody that's even related to the situation, and it's like super tense because like everyone's saying what they don't want to say and keeping quiet about the things they do want to say. It's kind of crazy, and I'm along for the ride thus far. But of course they do the whole ceremony, and it apparently the process is to bury their dead in a sarcophagus and then drop them into the ocean. And she falls off into a deep undersea cliff and lands right under where we can see it. Which those sarcophagi really is really reminiscent of Egyptian burial procedures. So it makes a lot of sense. Now we cut to the next scene where we see the Valyrian the Targaryen children are speaking to one another, but these are the children that were birthed from the king. And the funniest thing about these children is that the eldest, what's his name, Aegon is like still being this asshole, walking around not caring, and his bride to be is supposedly one of his sisters, and he said, hey, I don't want to marry her, but they're saying that you have to in order to keep the bloodline pure. Of course, these things aren't normal during these times. While this is going on, you have people doing everything they can to sort through the death of one of the Valyrians, and it's like there's a lot of suffering going on around them, but the children just don't really they're not kind of unfazed by it, and they're still being kids. But I find it pretty hilarious that the one person that makes the least sense but also the most sense at the same time will be Aegon. It's weird because he himself does not want to be betrothed to his sister, half sister, I think. And he sees that she's kind of weird and whatnot because she's over there playing around with spiders. And he made a little passing joke saying, well, we do have one thing in common. We both like things with long legs. And he walks away as he's drinking wine and getting drunk as he can. Then Sir Criston walks up to the princess and lets her know that Lionel Strong, the guy who's commanding of the bug people or whatever they are, the bug squad. But yeah, so he comes and brings to her attention that he's been looking at her the entire time, and I think he has some type of fatal infatuation with her. So this infatuation is to seem that he's at her service at every turn, because clearly he can tell that she's in way over her head, and he's offering his services and his connections in order to help her rise to power, because everyone in the kingdom knows that Rhaenyra is a piece of shit. Alright, I'm saying it right now. I've never wanted a character to lose more ever in my life. I really want Rhaenyra to lose. Like, she's the worst. Rhaenyra, please stop. But anyway, moving forward, of course she takes notice, and Sir Criston is a bit concerned, of course, because he's tasked with protecting her, and he's just trying to ascertain if he is a threat, or that's the wrong use of the word. He's trying to discern whether he's a threat or just a harmless nuisance. And yeah, so I would say that I would probably keep my eye on him, because there's got to be some type of ulterior motive. Everybody's got some type of plan in this show, so Who knows what he's up to? But then again, he could genuinely be in love with her. And she's a beautiful gal. Would make sense. Anywho's. Now, cut to Lord Corlys is trying to actually educate, inform, and comfort the youngest child of the eldest child of Rhaenyra. Just trying to let him know that you will be the Lord of the Seas, or Master of the Sea, or whatnot, or Drift of the Sea. And the boy was like, I don't want the title. And he says, but why? It's your birthright. You should be proud of it. Blah, blah, blah. And he's all like, yeah, but if I become that, then that means everyone else is dead. And Corlys had to really think about it. I'm really trying to consider exactly what the child meant by that. Because does that mean that he gained that title simply because other people who were in line to gain it were killed before him? Or does he mean that he will exact revenge on those who deserves to die? You know, I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to read more into that. But I would love for someone to add their 2 cents and maybe let me know. But I'm taking this in as I can as the show goes on, because I did not read the book. So I would love to have a conversation with anybody in the comments that could let me know. So now they cut to Sir Lena sitting in the waves, waist high in the ocean, as if he's about to dive off the deep end and kill himself. Likely very drunk. And he's over there feeling a bit sentimental, kind of hurt about everything. And it's understandable because he just lost his sister and they just got done with her funeral. So it's a real shame. Now, of course, Lord Corlys, at no hesitation, runs to Selena's current, I guess we could call him his boyfriend, and tells him to go and retrieve your patron. You know, and saying, go get your man, because he's looking real bad right now, basically. And he had to go and get him. And ran to retrieve him and bring him back to the party, of course, as he stumbles back and fights everyone off and goes on into isolation to deal with his grief. Everyone is looking upon him and saying, hey, wait, stop. No, don't do this. It's like, Lord Corlys, please don't bring attention to this. No one wants to know that your son is gay. Please don't let everybody know. You know, and all this other stuff. And meanwhile, you have Princess Rhaenyra walking around, skulking about amongst everyone, avoiding Queen Valerian, the Queen of the Valerians, and everyone else in order to say, I guess, she's still playing the sociopath game where she's trying to control what people know and how they perceive her. So now, here she is making flirtatious eyes with Daemon right after his wife's death and funeral ceremony. Like, just staring each other down, and on they go, you know. I mean, hey. Now, of course, in the next scene, you have King Viserys going to talk to his brother Daemon and try to comfort him and, you know, extend an olive branch, so to speak. And he's saying that, I'm so sorry that this happened. The gods can be cruel. And Daemon responds that, yeah, they've been especially cruel to you too, I see. And he's just like, well, if it's any consolation, if there's anything that you may need, then just let me know. And Daemon just aggressively goes, no, I need nothing from you, blah, blah, blah. And he just walks off angrily. Of course, the main person that notices is the main person that is deeply in disgusting love with him. And that will be Princess Rhaenyra, the villain of the entire story. And in classic fashion, as I said, one of the things that Aegon has successfully done finally was drink himself into a coma. So here he is passed out on the stone steps out of everyone's watchful eye, and it took the hand of the king to find him and to bring him up the stairs and say go to bed after aggressively, because he was just so drunk and he couldn't even walk on his own. This happens right after you see King Viserys makes his exit, as well as the prince, the queen tells both of her children to go to bed immediately. And then Rhaenyra tells her kids to go to bed as well. So of course, the adults see that something is amiss, something's going down, and they need to get the kids out of there. So we cut to a conversation between Lord Corlys and his queen, while he is incredibly pissed at the fact that his queen could not get the crown because of what has just transpired. And he's mentioned how they just plucked it out of her hands because these Targaryens are so ruthless and conniving. While the queen, she just says, I don't care for it anymore. I've given up the crown. She said she's given up chasing the crown a generation ago. And she knew that it was just a lost dream. While he's like, no, this is foolish. And she says, well, you've been in such a pursuit for this crown. You want it more than I do, just for the pride of your legacy. So much to the point that it came to the price of our own children. And he wasn't hearing it, while she was just expressing, look, these children are not of your blood. They are Targaryen blood. But Rhaena's children are yours. And that's fine. And she's saying that you need to be more on the side with Daemon and not trying to kiss ass with these, and bump heads with Rhaenyra and Viserys, because they are an ugly duo. A father who does not have the mettle to correct his daughter and just letting her get away with everything is the reason his entire kingdom is crumbling. And it's ruining other kingdoms as well, causing more infighting, more strife, more problems, more bumps that need to be ironed out, and mistakes that cannot be reversed. So yeah, and he finally just says, hey, listen, history is not made with blood, it is made with names. And that's the main thing that he was getting at. He said, it's not enough for our children to be from our bloodline, but they need to also possibly be a Targaryen. So in the next scene, in all of my disgust, you have Daemon and Rhaenyra finally having a conversation, walking around in a small sand patch of desert, I guess you could say. And in this field clearing, they're just conversating about what's been going on in their life and catching up. Of course, the first thing that comes out of her mouth is complaining about her marriage, which is not a real marriage between her and Selena. But also, she started to accuse Daemon of the recent murders that happened to the Strongs, and she assumed it was him only because she did not think that Queen Alicent would be capable of cold-blood murder, which that the hubris is what grants Alicent this upper hand, because Alicent is so righteous and innocent that even Rhaenyra is blind to the fact that maybe she could have a hand in being her adversary. Maybe she could, she doesn't consider Alicent a threat, you see, because of how righteous and helpless she is. Now, of course, they go on, they talk more, and she complains about how he abandoned her when really he had to tell her, no, I spared you. You were a child. We had no business fooling around, which was right. And he went and made a family with someone of age and had 2 beautiful children. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. Anyway, after such, she seduces him. He goes for it because she knows that he always wanted it and she always wanted it. So yeah, they do the do. Next thing though, you have a young somebody waiting and lurking out in the wild. And here's what he does. So in the night, the person sneaking around is Aemon, and he decides to take it upon himself to go and tame the dragon that used to be Daemon's wife. What's her name? Laena? Yeah, he took Laena's dragon and tamed it because, of course, it didn't have a mask at the time. And it literally will be tamed by the next person with the dragon blood in them that knows the language and can speak to the dragon. So he decides to basically hijack and steal it. Now, because of this, it's going to cause a lot of problems. But of course, he goes on a joyride in the night and flying around on the dragon, almost falls off completely. But now he has a dragon, and the children scramble together and they wake up. Let me see, Lena's children go and wake up Rhaenyra's kids and say, somebody took the dragon, somebody stole the dragon. We need to go find out right now. So all the kids get up together and they go on a little Rugrats adventure to go find out who stole the dragon. Meanwhile, Daemon and Rhaenyra just woke up in the dead of night after having their little party together. So Aemon comes back from flying on the dragon, and the kids meet him, all four of them. Two of Daemon's descendants, the two daughters, and the two sons of Rhaenyra's descendants. And they immediately address him and say, "You stole my mother's dragon." And said, "Well, you should have claimed it if it was meant to you, but now it's my dragon." And they begin to fight almost immediately, and it gets brutal. So much to the point where I think one of them's name was Jason or Jace. Jace decides to pull a knife after Aemon picked up a rock and threatened to beat one of their heads in, but he drops the rock and chooses not to. Smart. But Jace, not so much. Jace, he did his brother did his best and tried to cut him with the knife, but then he dropped it. So Jace picks it up and just slashes him across the face. Huge slash across the face, right down his eyeball. So he's just bleeding out on the floor, and right at that moment, the adults run in and the knights find out, and they address it right then and there. It's a bunch of commotion. People are worried. They're wondering what happened. The knights are like, "Oh no, this looks bad." They come back and tell King Viserys, and he's furious. They're like, "How did this happen? Why did this happen? You guys were supposed to be watching them. You're supposed to protect him. He is my children." Blah, 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 blah. And he's just mad at everybody. Meanwhile, the maester is sewing up the wound, and his eye is done for. But he has a huge scar over the left side of his face. And it's full of sutures at this point, and they sutured his eye shut as well. So yeah. In walks Lord Corlys, furious as well, wondering what happened and who did this. Meanwhile, right after that, in walks Princess Rhaenyra, the mother of the two bastards that took place in this entire fight. And she's mad, asking the children, "Why did this happen? Who did this?" Meanwhile, Daemon is just sitting behind at the door with his arms crossed, as if his daughters had nothing to do with the entire affair. It is hilarious because the children, after asked what happened, just immediately started hollering and talking over one another. "It was him, and he took my dragon." And it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Valerius quiets everybody down by screaming silence, and then he goes directly to Aemon and asks him what happened, and I want the truth at once. And once being told, someone brought up that it was Rhaenyra's children who attacked him, but Rhaenyra, in her defense, mentioned that they said that they were insulted. And insulted my very bloodline, she says. And Viserys, then his ears perk up and he says, "What insult was it?" His ears perk up and he said, "What they do to my daughter, who can do no wrong, my innocent angel that's always innocent." And Rhaenyra says that, of course, the validity of my children's father and their birth were brought into question. And then one of the kids just says, the eldest son, "He called us bastards." Now, of course, in between conversation, Queen Alicent walks over to Aegon and slaps the piss out of him because she's mad at him for letting this happen to her children while he was over there stupidly drunk like he should never have been. Now, of course, the king gets mad at the idea that someone insulted his grandchildren and said that they may be bastards. So now he wants to know who told him the lie. While Alicent is over there saying that you should not be taking the stance because it's just an insult while my son is missing an eye. An eye. The maester said he would never see out of that eye again, and you're over here worrying about a rumor, some gossip, some truth that you should have been known, like that you've been choosing to be ignorant to. Oh my goodness. Anyway. Now, of course, they call attention and said, "Where is Sir Laenor and why was he not around?" or whatnot, asking about his presence. And of course, Rhaenyra has to say, "I do not know where he is." And then Queen Alicent says, maybe he's on one of his little soldier's adventures or something, she said. And meanwhile, the Crystal's over there just hamming it up, boy, having a good old laugh, like, "Boy, y'all ain't married for real. That boy gay. You know what I mean? Let him live his life." I hate that Sir Laenor is caught up in this, by the way. Just a side note, he should be able to live his life, but we know what times we in. Okay. So King Viserys really leans in and says, "Aemon, you tell me right now who told me these lies about you, about those kids being a bastard." And he decides to lie because it's his mother, the Queen Alicent, told him that. but he lied and said that Aegon was the one that told him. So Viserys, in his big huff and puff, goes over and says, "Hey, why did you tell my son that? Why did you tell my grandson that mess? This rumor, this bull, blah, 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 blah." And then Aegon just does the first right thing ever. The first thing he ever did right, and the first time I respected him. He just said, "Grandfather, everyone knows. Everyone. Look at them." And King Viserys just takes his time to look around the room. Lord Corlys looks away. Rhaenyra looks away. The children look away. The knights, the guards, the entire Valyrian family, the Targaryens, everyone looks away. They all knew. Let's get back at it. Of course, he deflects it and just says that this infighting needs to stop. We are a family. I demand that you all act peacefully from now on. You know, he's just like getting pissy and whatnot, and still decides to act ignorant. Now, Alicent, this is where I really started to respect Alicent a lot, and I'm riding for her throughout the entire series. That's my girl. Because now she's like, "No, sir, we are not done here. There has been a terrible misdeed done to the son of the Queen of the Iron Throne, and her son has his face cut and lost his eye. And you just want to walk away from this? You just want to just say, oh, well? Like, no, there is a debt to be paid. My son has lost his eye. And I agree. Yes, she is me. I am her in that moment. She needs to take an eye from a Targaryen." So, you know, and she's just pissed about it. He's like, "What you want me to do? Take one of their eyes?" She's like, "That's cool." Like, that's literally what she said. She's like, "I'm cool with that." And he's just like, "No, we can't do that." And she's like, "This is your son. This is your own blood son." And he's like, "Look, Alicent, you can't let your anger cloud your judgment whenever you want to make a decision." So, Alicent turns and says, "Sir Crystal, I want you to go cut that kid's face." and they were like, "No, you will not, Viserys. Like you will do no such thing." And then as soon as he was about to like think about not doing it, and then she just yelled and said, "Sir Crystal, you were sworn to me." And he's like, "Yes, your queen." He had no choice. And now Viserys is constantly trying to talk her down from it and say, "Please don't do anything. It's over." And then he finally says, "Now, if anybody has a problem about my sons, have them removed." And then Rhaenyra just goes, "Thank you, father," and tries to walk away. And Alicent said, I don't want to cuss too much, but me, Alicent wasn't about that. She said she want that smoke, son. Alicent runs up and snatched the dagger right out of the holster of one of the knights and takes that Valyrian dagger and goes straight for Rhaenyra, like completely. And now she's doing what she can to try to cut either her or her child. And they keep struggling. And in the midst of the struggle, they start talking. Now, while Alicent is struggling with her, everybody just like running up to see if they could stop it. And as Sir Crystal gets ready to jump in the altercation, Daemon stops Sir Crystal. Like, why would you? You know? And it's just getting even more intense. And Viserys is back there like, "Stop this at once, Alicent." Blah, 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 blah. So basically, Alicent was like, "You took in everything from me. You just constantly take and destroy and destroy. And now you've taken my son's eye, and you feel entitled to that too." And now, you know, say as Alicent's like pretty much right about all of this, Rhaenyra just goes, "Well, look at that. Isn't it just stressful and tiresome hiding behind your huge veil of self-righteousness? And now they see who you really are." And then Alicent just pulls away from her with no intention to cut her, but she ended up cutting a huge gash on her arm, and she starts to bleed. And then in that moment, Rhaenyra goes, "Oh, innocent me. Oh, I have been cut. Oh no, I am the victim that I've always wanted to be." So, as Alicent realizes what she just done, she drops the dagger and looks around the room as everyone is being incredibly judgmental at the blood that's just dripping from the hand of Rhaenyra. And they all just stay and remain a very poignant silence. So a silence and tension that's so thick you can cut it with a karate chop. And she turns to her son, and her son says, "No worries, mother. It was an even exchange. I may have lost an eye, but I gained a dragon. So now Queen Alicent, after everything calms down, Alicent goes back to her quarters, and she has a conversation with her father, the Hand of the King, of course. And he goes, "Well, what's been going on? Why are you this way?" Well, basically catching up with her. And she's like, "I'm sorry that this happened, and it was very shameful, and I shouldn't have done such a thing to be the queen of this kingdom. I've brought about disgrace and blah blah blah." And he said, "You know what? They were very judgmental, but I was incredibly surprised. I've never seen this side of you, Alicent." And he said, "It means that you have slightly changed, but it also means that you are determined." He said, "No," she said, "What I did was very ugly." And he said, "Well, it seems to me that we play an ugly game, and you seem to be finally showing that you are determined to win." And he's actually proud of her. And then they start hashing out the real truth of what's been going on. And he said, "I'm just happy that you can see her for who she truly is." And if anybody can remember, 2 episodes ago, they had a conversation in the rain where she was defending Princess Rhaenyra and saying that she was a nice girl, she was innocent, and she wasn't taken advantage of, and she can be trusted. And now it's a complete 180. She wants her dead. She wants revenge. Let's see what happens. So now that Princess Rhaenyra has retreated back to her quarters, Sir Lena shows up, and he's like regretful and mad at the fact that he wasn't present, because he was mad that he couldn't protect his sister and she was dead, and then he was also mad that he said that he couldn't protect her, and now she's harmed once again. And she's like, "But you are a good man with a good heart, and that's very rare." He's like, "I know that our marriages are false, but I want to be the husband that you deserve. You deserve a great man, a better man, and I can be that for you." Blah blah blah. And she's just soaking it all up, and it's oh boy, it's Rhaenyra getting what she want again. And it's the constant bullshit. It's just the same old. More of, "Oh, I devout myself to you, Rhaenyra. Oh, you're so great." And it seems like he's saying it out of guilt. But there you have it. Now, you see that the Targaryens are on a ride away from the Kingdom of Valyria to go back to the Targaryen kingdom, and right now the queen's trying to drum up a conversation in order to finish talking about what happened, and the king's just being dismissive. He's just like, "I don't want to hear any more of it," and they just ride along in silence. Meanwhile, everyone watches them depart. Everyone sees them leave. Here she is on the boat in isolation, and up comes Lena Strong to speak with her. But before the conversation begins, they have a conversation between Daemon and Rhaenyra once again. Of course, at this time, you have Rhaenyra conspiring with Daemon at this point, and now they're working together in order to get what they want in unison. Who knows what could happen, but it could be very dangerous if you think of it. She has Targaryen sons that are to the late Strong family, bastard children, and he has children of the Valyrians. So what could come of this? I doubt anything good, because they all basically have dragons at this point, probably. Now, Lena Strong tells her that if you do need my services once again, I can help you balance the scales. And she says, "No, that won't be necessary. But I will admit that you have been doing good work by me, and I do appreciate what you've done. And it seems that I just might need your services." And with a smile, he turns and says, I am at service to you, my queen." And in more or less words. And the scene closes. We go back to Rhaenyra and Daemon. And Rhaenyra basically just lays it all out and says that I need to be with you. I want us to come together. Now, in the next scene, you see Daemon speaking with the boyfriend of Sir Lannis, and saying, "Hey, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to make a quick death happen with several witnesses." And of course, he listens, but he also tells him that there's a place across the sea where it doesn't matter what a man's name is, just how much gold he has. Basically telling him, you could have your gay freedom if I pay you. So here we are. And of course he accepts the coin. Rhaenyra admits to Daemon that she doesn't want to be a tyrant and rule with terror, which I highly doubt and do not completely believe. Sounds like BS, but oh well. And in the next scene, you see Daemon choking out a random guard, it seems. And of course, Solanus reports to a place where he was led to in front of a fireplace. And he's like, why are you here? What are you doing here in my father's hall? Like, you're not supposed to be here. Because we're supposed to be a secret couple type of thing. And and of course the boyfriend says, well, you've always looked down on me. And he draws his sword on him. And he said, and Laena's like, you forget yourself. This is not a good idea. And of course the fight begins. And accompanied him to this place was one of the children. And the kid decides to run and go get one of the guards as they keep fighting right in front of the fireplace. And with this plan, Rhaenyra is narrating it and saying that this entire move would cost them their only remaining child. Basically stealing all of the descendants away from under the Valorian family in one fell swoop. And of course she planned that everybody in the realms will blame Princess Rhaenyra. And now the queen is crying, distraught at the dead, burnt body of her final son as it was pulled out of the fireplace. And of course this is during medieval times, or the Renaissance period, whatever you want to call it. And they mention that here's something that's worth mentioning, They cannot identify the body back then because they do not have the scientific advances that we have today that give them the ability to know who it was if the body was terribly dismembered. So it being burned to death just means that it has to be the body that they assume it to be. In the very next scene, you see Rhaenyra and Daemon getting married. Literally right there, immediately. And the children look upon them. The two of Valyrian blood and the two of half strong blood. And they make it official. And meanwhile, after all this confusion, you see two hooded cloaked people running toward a small rowboat. In one of the hoods, you see the boyfriend of the late Sir Laena. But in the other hood, as it is removed, you see the face of the now bald Sir Laena himself. And they run across the sea for a chance at public love. While the house of the Valorians have been torn asunder, and the Targaryens, being ever the more ignorant of everything going on, Daemon gaining more power and leverage than he should, and again Rhaenyra has gotten exactly what she wanted. Well, everybody, that was episode 7 of House of the Dragon, titled Driftmark, and I thank y'all for sticking with me thus far. Please, if you enjoyed this, go ahead and give the video a like, and if you want to see more, come and see me next week and drop a subscribe to make sure that you'll catch it, and go ahead and hit that bell so you can get the notification. My name is Slim Cognito, and always remember the channel motto: intentions are the most important, actions ain't nothing but loud, and words don't mean a damn thing. Y'all take care of yourselves, and peace.